Good morning, folks. This is Mrs. Dunlap, and today I'm going to talk to you about writing your introduction and your conclusion. The first thing I want you to always double check is your MLA header and heading. So because we're writing in MLA, you need to make sure that up here in your header, you have your last name, and I already put in the page number for you, so don't delete that, okay? That way it'll automatically paginate for you. If you're wondering how to do that, in case you accidentally deleted the page number, you just type your last name followed by a space, and then you hit insert page numbers and then the first option, okay? Also double check, this is my sample paper, so please make sure that your template has your name, my name, the course name, and the date the paper is due. At this point, we're still in outline mode. Again, I want to mention that the outline is optional. It is an optional grade. So if you would rather just go into writing your body paragraphs or your paragraphs in your essay, that is fine, okay? I just know some of you like outlines, and that's why I set it up this way. So I'm going to slowly start deleting things that I'm not going to need anymore. We already know this is an outline. Okay, and now after we have written our 3 body paragraphs, our counter argument, and we have our works cited page, we're going to look at bringing all of this together by introducing our ideas and concluding them. The introduction and the conclusion should not be as many sentences as your body paragraphs. They are more brief and super focused on introducing and concluding your ideas. So we're going to talk about that, and then I'll show you my example, okay? So as we're looking at an introduction, side note, I'm also going to post a video for you to watch too that's helpful. You always want an interesting fact, hook, quote, or anecdote in your first line. What's an anecdote? An anecdote is like a story. I usually try to refrain from this in argumentative writing, which is what synthesis writing is, because it seems a little too informal to me. Like, once there was this boy who loved to play video games all day, and his mother thought that it led to an increase in his aggression. All day Johnny would play video games and blah, blah, blah. That's an anecdote. It's a story. I would rather see you open your paper with over 50% of young adults play video games today. I mean, that's like boom, in your face, okay? So a fact, a hook, a quote to get your reader's attention, and it can be a sentence or two. And then you're going to go into some general information about the topic, which is, do violent video games increase aggression? And then your thesis, letter C, is already done for you, okay? And you'll see how all of this flows together in a minute. So I'm going to take a minute and write the introduction, and then I will show you what I came up with. Okay, folks, I'm back here, and I want to show you my introduction, which, might change. I'm someone, and you should be too, who reads your paper over and over and over to make sure it flows. That's a great part of the writing process. So once you get your paper done, you should always go back through and read it through a couple times to make sure that everything flows right. And your thesis could even change up until the very end, okay? So what I did is I did a hook, I did some general information, and then I tied it to my thesis. It's about 6 sentences here. This is what it should look like. And again, this is my example, so please don't steal my work, but I'm just trying to show you how you could start off your paper. So I started with, video game violence has been an ongoing debated issue throughout the past 20 years. I remember reading that in one of the articles, so I put it in my own words. Okay, that's called summarizing, and you don't need to quote that. Currently, nearly 70% of Americans play video games. I kind of just looked that up on the internet and saw that, and put that in my own words as well. I think it said over 50% in one of the articles, but those were written 2 years ago, so maybe that's changed, but you can always fact check that or double check that. Okay, so when I was looking at that, it was like closer to 65%, which is nearly 70%. So they're kind of stretching it there, but you can always say over 50% because I remember that being from one of the sources, play video games. Some of the most popular games today include narratives with violent content. And I could list them there if I wanted to, with a colon, Fortnite, Doom, Call of Duty, whatever they put in there. And I'm sure some of you are laughing at me right now because she's like, what is she talking about? Does she even know these video games? I'm trying, folks. I really am. With the increase in mass shootings in the United States, many argue there's a direct link between these games and aggressive behavior. Even President Donald Trump shared his sentiments, which means thoughts, on violent video games as a correlation to mass shootings. However, researchers have never proved that one leads to another. Although many feel violent video games cause aggression, this is simply not the case. Thus, researchers are concluding there simply is not enough evidence and are also finding violent video games may reduce real-world aggression and even teach gamers decision-making strategies. Okay? So see how all that ties together? Again, it's not perfect. I just wrote it in 5 minutes, so I might go back and change it a little bit, but the biggest thing, I thought this was interesting, is President Donald Trump said that he thought violent video games were linked to mass shootings, and then he actually retracted his statement. I read in one of the articles, or I was looking up online, so he does not feel that way anymore. So I wanted to kind of put that in there, but I didn't know how to say it, so I left it alone, and I went into another fact that I saw from one of the articles. Again, put it in my own words. So, excuse me. Take a second to read over that. Look how it flows. Think about what you want to say. And folks, I will be honest with you too. At first, when all of you responded to your thoughts on this, you were all very, it does not increase aggression, does not. So I tried to focus writing a paper that was close to your thoughts because I want to help you and I want you to see how everything flows. But as I read through the sources, I thought, I think it does, personally, I think it does increase aggression, not towards other people, but like in the moment of the game, when you get heated if you lose or you don't get that kill or whatever, from what I was reading. But for the sake of the assignment, I'm arguing that it doesn't because I know a lot of you are, and I want to help you along the way with that. Okay, so next we're going to go into your conclusion. Okay, so again, for the conclusion, it's 5 to 6 sentences, just like the introduction. You're going to restate the main points of your paper, restate your thesis, but not word for word, restate your 3 arguments briefly. These are all suggestions, okay? You don't have to do it all. I want it to sound natural. I don't want it to sound choppy. Appeal to the reader, to see how you have come to a logical conclusion, and then make a memorable final statement, clincher, tie it all together, and don't leave me saying, so what? So I'm going to take a few minutes here and write this so you can see how, and I'll go over that with you. Okay, so again, just wrote this in like 5 minutes, so bear with me here. I might tweak it and obviously fix it if I feel it needs to. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, I keep yawning. So until more research is conducted, people need to see there is no direct link between violent video games and aggression, or worse, criminal behavior, because that was brought up in the articles too. They definitely are not seeing a link in criminal behavior, or violent acts, but aggression kind of was brought up in some of those sources. Although players may feel aggression towards the games when playing, which is true, most teenagers and adults seem to be able to differentiate between fantasy and the real world. which I've kind of concluded myself reading these and talking to students and people who play. For many players, video games are a stress reliever. They can teach adolescents how to process story narratives, and games can also help teach players decision-making strategies. There, I just restated my thesis, okay, but not verbatim. With technology rapidly increasing and improving, playing video games is a hobby Americans will continue to choose. Until statistical, valid, and reliable research proves a correlation in playing and aggression, society needs to let gamers be gamers. Okay, again, you guys might think that's cheesy or corny, but it's a closing statement. It's thought provoking. It makes me go, okay, yeah, we do need to get off their back. And for maybe some kids or for some adults, they're choosing this over drinking, or this over drugs, or this over whatever um, coping mechanism is not good for them. If playing video games is a way to meet people or talk to people or bond with friends or stress relieve, like that's kind of like the point I'm making there. Okay. um, so, yep, there's my conclusion. 5 to 6 sentences in a nutshell. So you can see that there again, it might change. And then, so tomorrow, folks, is the outline. So yours might even actually, if you did the outline, it should be a complete sentence outline and still be an outline format. But maybe for some of you, you've put it into a narrative like I have, and you're just going to skip over that assignment, which is optional, by the way, just so you know. Okay, so I'm going to work on this today for you so you can see a full paper and how it flows. I highly suggest you read that and you see how I cite sources. But again, I've been getting a lot of questions on the source with no author and how to cite that. So if you look at my first video, you'll see that, but you can also look at my sample paper to see how I did that as well. Okay, really quick here since I'm on the works cited page. Again, always set up the quote with as much information as possible. You can say the title of the article from CNN. That takes up space. It clarifies. It's a great way to introduce a source. Or if you just say with the article title, then you would cite the author's last name in the citation. You'll be able to see. I'm going to do it a couple different ways for you in the body paragraph so you can see. But the biggest thing, folks, I'm not going to leave all of these in my paper. I'm only going to leave the ones that I use. So you need to end up deleting what you don't use. Okay? As always, reach out if you have questions. Happy writing!